Welcome to the Sharpe Way Show, everybody. Thank you so much for showing up today. It's 7 p.m. on the East Coast. So, yeah, you got to look at my mug. That's kind of how this works. I appreciate it so much. You know what I'm going to ask you? Please go out there and like, comment, share. It does matter so that people know what we're doing, so that we can get around this media blockade, this blackout that we're dealing with. We need people to know that what we're doing here matters and the people we talk to matter. So help us out. Click that like, make a comment, share it to the best of your ability. Today, I am very lucky. I have with me an activist, a veteran, an author, the man himself, Justin Durm. How are you, sir?
Pretty good, sir. How are you?
I'm doing great. I'm so happy you came because you have a lot of experience that I think my audience wants to hear. You've been around veterans in trouble. You've been around active duty people in trouble, and you've been in trouble. And I mean that in a mental way. And you wrote a book called, did I get the book right? 81 Days Hidden Suicide. Is that right?
Yes, 81 Days of Hidden Suicide.
There we go. 81 Days Hidden Suicide. By the way, guys, if you want to check that book out, please feel free. Head it over to his Twitter account. It's right there. And also, the book is also in the show notes, so feel free to check that out, as always. But you said 81 days hidden. Those are the two pieces that I kind of want to bring up, because I think the average civilian, their image of a vet in trouble is a vet comes back from a war, and then now he's mad, and he's yelling at his wife and kids, and that's the guy who's going to commit suicide. That's the image that I think we have. But you show a very different image. Tell me about that.
The hidden part, I just go ahead and touch on that. No one likes to talk about suicide. You know, it's a damning issue when you're trying to build the budget for the military at a conference with your fellow leaders. So the last thing you want to talk about is how many people actually commit themselves on active duty.
Whoa! So hold on.
while
So you're
in
actually
war
saying,
and actually at home, right?
So you're actually saying that this is something bigger. This is people making budgets and writing deals for the
They're
next
constantly
year.
omitting this information.
Got it. That is surprising. So then, how do we get our numbers then? Are our numbers accurate or no?
It depends. That's most things in life. It depends, because you know you can look at the study. Generally, if you go to the APA, the American Psychology Association, and then you look at the VA statistics, they're very similar, but they use the same report. However, when you go and take out the Office of Government Accountability statistics, they vary. It's a large variance between the two reports.
But you said something just now. Again, the bigger piece. You said the number of veterans, or actually military members, not even veterans, military members who are committing suicide active duty. That's something that civilians don't even think about. Tell me about that.
And then civilians, I think a key issue is civilians understand that you're actually a veteran while you're on active duty, right? Because anything happens to you on active duty, you're a veteran. You know what I mean? So there's really no stipulations between the two, except one, you're actually, you want to work every day, you're checking in, wearing a uniform. Then the other, you're at home, but you still have a DOD, Department of Defense number, identification number, in addition to your Social Security number. And then you also still, depending on your MOS, have your military job, you have a security clearance. So it's also that governing exactly what it is you can and can't do. So I think people get lost in the fact that just because you don't wear a uniform anymore, or whether or not you have a uniform on, you're still a veteran.
I get you. I joined the Marine Corps in 1985, and I still have a clearance to this day. And I got my DB-214. I still have it. I'm with you. I get it. I get it.
Yeah.
So tell me about a situation that you had that made you decide to name it 81, that number. Why 81?
Did you just say why I chose 81? You kind of broke up.
I'm sorry. Yes. Why 81?
Well, 81 is the number of days that I spent specifically working the majority of the time of my shifts at Triple Army Medical Center, 12-hour shifts. We never had holidays, because when you work at a hospital, you're always on call.
Yep.
So you never really have any free time. That's what people don't understand. So that, I won't like working in the hospital to, actual war, like, bullets flying over here, grenades and stuff like that. But you're in a hot zone, that's for sure. Yep. You got people popping out babies, people leaving the earth when they die. Got blood everywhere. People getting CPR, they got the EKG out, they got everything out, going on. But when you work in an inpatient psych unit like I did, you get closed off a little bit from a lot of it. So the only time you really come out is when you're on your breaks.
So hold on.
Pick up a patient.
You worked in an inpatient psych unit.
Yeah, people came to us.
Got it. Okay.
And they couldn't leave unless they were cleared to leave.
But when that happens, isn't it usually someone's maybe gets, some prescription, or they, you keep them for 1 or 2 days? Isn't that the norm?
72 hours usually is the average.
Yep.
Right. Then you come in, you do your MSC. Typically, you see the nurses first. Then you see the prescribing doctor. Mm-hmm. Lots of times it's a civilian, and other times it's actual younger officers, like captains and
lieutenants
maybe sometimes. But yeah, you come in and you see them, and then they try to develop some type of treatment or outpatient treatment plan so they can get you outpatient so they can better diagnose you. Because when you're in inpatient, like I said, it's a high frequency unit, so it's a lot of turnover.
Sure.
So sometimes you see the same people over and over. Sometimes you only see a person like once. Then that person is actually transferred to outpatient treatment, and they continue their treatment in outpatient for whatever
you've
time
said
they spend.
Something. You've talked about a bigger problem, and the problem is that the military wants to have a standard treatment for everybody. You're a DOD number, so you get a standard treatment. But you're saying, if I remember you right, you said you want more of a personal treatment. You don't actually want the standard treatment.
Yeah, you can't treat a bunch of numbers. Who is that? Who is 5'5", 6'6", 2, 3, 9, 11, whatever? Who is that? You know what I'm saying?
You can swear. You can drop F-bombs. I don't mind. It's okay.
Yeah, who the fuck is that?
Yeah.
I don't know. So, but see, we're on the side when you're a 68 expert behavioral health specialist, I'm dealing with the person. I'm not even looking at the intel information about this. I don't know anything about the person as far as their job, and sometimes not even really their personal life. I'm just dealing with it based on, the training I've been able to acquire, and my own personal time that I spent studying the DSM and whatever knowledge I get for the APA. Then asking my superiors about, hey, how do I handle this situation? Because we have a script that they give us. That's how. That's another thing about it being standard. There is a script.
Sure.
So when somebody comes in, I would perform a mental status examination prior to that individual, whether it be a civilian or active duty or a veteran, non-active duty veteran.
So
it's standard. You know what I mean?
So a guy comes in.
A set of questions I'm supposed to ask them every time, no matter what the situation is.
But
that's not right.
You've spoken about a specific individual who kind of affected you, right? That you kind of wrote the book about, the 81 Days about. Could you tell me about that person, kind of what happened?
Well, the good thing is, I still look him up on Facebook. I don't add him because I don't want to feel like I'm like stalking or anything. But we're actually pretty good friends, So usually you don't remain friends with the people once they're treated and they go on. Sometimes you can, sometimes you do, just because you might, wind up being stationed somewhere in another duty station together. But he's actually doing well.
Good.
And he's going on with his life.
Good.
So when I met him, I was coming in. He had slit his wrist, so he was basically clinging to life. He had lost a lot of blood. Because, and this goes back to where the 81 days comes from. Because like the majority of the time he came in, whether I was at work or I was on supposedly off, he preferred to speak with me. He didn't prefer to speak with the rest of the staff. He better related and associated with my form of therapy. I guess it was a more personal, information-based therapy because I can't help you if you don't convey whatever it is to me.
Sure.
So like I said, the whole numbers thing, the DOD and the Social Security, that stuff really don't matter if you're really trying to treat people. But anyway, he spent 81 days on the ward, and he would only, like I said, you're only supposed to be on there about 3 days. He wound up doing 81 because he tried to kill himself 3 times. The third time was the situation that led him actually to a permanent stay on the ward. Then it's a psych ward. He had slit his wrist, and he actually did it wrong twice because
So he slit his wrist 2 times.
Twice incorrectly.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I really don't like to put this information out there.
Don't say it then. If you don't want to.
I'm just trying to give people information. Like I said, I'm keen on information because people can't stop what they can't see or anything. So if you cut your wrist across, that's typically the incorrect way to do it. But if you go straight down that vein, it's harder to stop. So he got it right the third time. So I ain't saying he got it right by choosing to commit suicide, but I'm just saying as far as like the measures he took were more likely to produce or bring him about the solution that he was seeking. Right. But he was found within about 10 seconds of bleeding out. His superior officer brought him to the hospital. They wrapped up his wrist. Like I can't even tell you how big the casts were around his wrist. And he's sitting there. He wouldn't talk to anybody for a while. And then I had been there a few years, so they kind of called me into the situation because like the techs are the ones that see the people every day, deal with them on a more personal basis than the doctors every day. Because the doctors, they're gonna go home. They're not paid to stay there 12 hours a day.
Right.
So we talked and it was just a situation where I wouldn't say I felt bad. What he was going through resonated with me because a lot of his battles, that's the main thing about it being personal, you have to let people know that a lot of the battles that they're going through, we've already, you know what I mean? I also been through those battles, or I know someone that's been through what you're going through, whether it's physically, mentally, emotionally, whether it's your job, your relationship with your spouse, or whatever the situation may be. So we kind of got to level every day. We got to joke every day.
The words you often use to describe how someone feels, you use 2 different phrases, 2 different words. One is, disowned, and the other one's left out.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me why you pick those words, disowned and left out. I mean, you think I'm in the Army or I'm in the Navy or I'm in the Marine Corps. I got all my brothers and sisters around me. How can I be left out? How can I be disowned? I'm wearing the same uniform as them. I'm in the barracks with them. How can I be left out? How does that work?
Typically, if even just a regular, just being normal, there's a typical, standard way to be normal, right? So if you don't fall within those lines of being normal, you can be disowned and left out. But specifically, when people leave you out, typically when they don't value your opinion or your presence too much. So to them, you're not as worthwhile, right? And when you're disowned, that means it's like when you throw like an old TV away. Like the TV might even still work, but you're disowning that TV. I don't own it anymore. So whatever that individual is going through, I don't want to own all the problems and stuff and the situation. Every time I see him or her, what they bring to the table. So I'm going to disown that. So that is not on my heart. It's not my fault.
So when someone is in trouble and that person goes either to their spouse or to their platoon sergeant or to their first sergeant, whatever, they feel like the spouse or the platoon sergeant, whoever they're looking for, is like, I can't handle you right now, right? Why are you doing this again, right? Why are you acting this way again? And then they start feeling like they're disowned and they have no place to turn.
Mm-hmm. My thing though is, in that regard, is you got to remember the way they look at mental health and behavioral health. It's like, why are you beating the same drum? But most people just feel like, it's just something somebody kind of feigns or fakes. But when you have a real disorder, you can't stop or discontinue the cause. You just have to be able to cope or treat with the whole situation, because that's why it's a disability. Like, I'm disabled. That's why I receive disability. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yep.
PTSD, depression, anxiety, that is a disorder. It's not like something, I don't start shaking and get nervous for no reason. Like, I can be perfectly fine around everybody that knows me and loves me. Nobody could not want to hurt me. And I still get the shivers, and, I get cold, and I'm like, hey, man, I start to feel real edgy and nervous. Sometimes I just close my eyes. I'm not really all the way asleep, but I still have nightmares and stuff like that, just about, memories trying to replay themselves. That's what they say dreams are a lot of times. Just memories, parts of your brain wants to relive parts of whatever those memories are again in real life.
Well, you said, if I remember right, that one of the biggest concerns you had is they want to give you a pill for everything, right? So you got a problem, they got a pill. You got this problem, they got this pill. You got that problem, they got this pill. They kind of always got a pill for everything.
So the thing about pills is, that's a standard approach. That's the safe way out. Because when they do that, they say, I gave them what I could give them. But what if time, just appreciation, association, the fellowship, and, giving somebody some type of reason to want to live? Because that's the majority when people fall out of line as far as like the trajectory and what they're going to be and how long they're going to live, and ultimately turns to suicide. A lot of times they lose exactly what it is that they're actually living for, what their goals are. And then, when you can sometimes achieve your goals too fast, and then sometimes you can be going so well and it'll be such a long break, but you're really doing good, but you just haven't achieved that goal, so you get lost again. You see what I'm saying? But pills are put in there, and they're just supposed to make this wonderful thing happen. Like, you just put it in and it turns on. But it's not like putting a battery in a fucking remote. I mean, you put two batteries in a remote, you put them in the wrong way, they don't work. So if it's the wrong fucking pill, I'm not gonna fucking work correct way. But anyway, a lot of things about pills, though, you might close one wound and then open a whole beehive or nest. It's like stomping on. You might kill one bee stomping on a hive, but then you bust the whole hive, and you got a whole bunch of bees you got to work with. You got a whole bunch more wounds you got to worry about. So it's kind of like you're damned if you do, or you're damned if you don't. But in that situation, you can't do wrong if you actually show a level of care that's undefeated. Like, if you really give a fuck, like, hey man, I really, you know what I'm saying? Somebody, unless they're like, I guess, incompetent, or they're not really, they really can't touch or feel themselves within their soul to resonate with, like, the fact that somebody really cares. You can't help that. I understand that, but they're not fucking doing that. In the army, I'm in the military. I was in the army. They're not sitting there waiting on you to hey, snap out of it. Like, hey man, you can't do it. Then, hey man, all right, you can leave, but you can't really fucking leave because you're under contract. Yes. That's the other thing. It ain't like the turnover for the military ain't that high. You're in a federal contract. You're bound by federal law. So you can't even you can't say anything. You can't be a conscientious citizen, so you can't say anything bad in retaliation of anything negative about the president.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
You see what I'm saying? So you're so much controlled down to the T. So that goes into saying whether or not social media is good as military. It probably isn't. You should go on and post your political affiliations or religious affiliations too often, because if someone sees that, or someone from your unit sees that, they might take it one way when you really meant it another way, but you wind up in a whole situation that you never had to be in if you didn't have social media.
Let me take a couple of comments if I can. Jimmy says, perfect topic. Thank you, Larry. This one's dear to my heart. I appreciate that. And he's wearing a Sharpe Way hoodie. Thank you, Jimmy. I appreciate that. Nice. So Connie says, fantastic and timely topic, Larry. Literally no question or topic we were asked to bring up on the campaign campaign trail more than this one. People care about veterans, Justin. They do. They care about the military. But my worry is, what do we do, right? How do I now as a civilian? All I know I can do is I can be here. And I have some veterans in my life, and when they call me, I answer. And when they have a problem, I respond, right? That's what I do. Is that what we should be just doing? Just when someone reaches out, say, all right, I'm here.
Well, that's the best way to go about it, because we're amid a pandemic. So that kind of threw a wrench into anything as far as like physical interaction is going. So the only thing you can do is remain a sound fixture in the lives of the veterans that you do have influence on. So like you said, that's good to be there. And the other thing is for people not to assume or presume anything about what they may have heard or seen on TV, because like everybody's experience isn't like John Rambo's experience being in the veteran. You're not going to come out blazing fucking 203s and fucking RPGs and stuff that's in the fucking country woods.
Yes, no.
This how it is to be a veteran. It's really that. So I think people should, once they understand that.
Yeah. You really have.
Once they understand that, just because you've been told something, you've been sold something, even that commercial to go on a commercial about enlisting, what they do in that video, a lot of that stuff you can go your entire enlistment and never do. You could never be a paratrooper. You might never lay a mine. You might never fire M16 in a war. You might never wear a handgun on your hip or your thigh, right? You might never wear knee pads. You might not never get any Iraqi dirt on you, but you might get a global war on terrorism award that you may never wear. It's just on a piece of paper. Nobody knows that.
It's true.
Nobody knows that. And that goes back to why everything's hidden. It's hidden. It's classified.
So I want to go to another piece, though, and you brought this up. There are a lot of people who are afraid that the veteran is going to, like you said, all of a sudden pull out an M4 and start spraying people, is going to throw a grenade at somebody and stuff like that. When the reality of it is, if a veteran's hurting, they are far more likely to hurt themselves than others.
That's right.
Right? Far more likely. I mean, like by hundreds, times. They're far more likely to hurt themselves than anyone outside. So my point is, I know people who are afraid of veterans. And I say, why? Veterans, if they're in trouble, obviously not to be veterans in trouble, but if a veteran's in trouble, they're far more likely to hurt themselves, not you. You should be the one to say, I'm here for you, brother or sister. I'm here for you. You don't have to hurt yourself. You can talk to me instead, and maybe we could hurt nobody. I would like that better.
Exactly. But, and then I said more than likely in a situation where there is an issue where it might be conflict, and I'm in the room with the civilians as a veteran, I'm more likely to get away from the civilians, because I want to get the civilians to get me caught up in anything, because they don't know what to do in that situation, then we all be dead. So
yes.
If I can help, like we had one time we had a Visca water in Hawaii, and the guy comes in like, hey man, you got your dog tags on. I'm not in the army no more. I just had them around my neck. They weren't out of flashing. You can see a little bead. He's like, what do we do if a missile? I said, hey man, I don't know. I know I'm probably gonna go somewhere and get drunk in a corner, because you can't really run. It's an island, so they come with the spillery. But at least I talked to the guy. I was humorous with the guy. It was a terrible situation that I wasn't wishing on anybody. But hey, that's more than likely what you're gonna get if you approach a veteran, because we typically we're a little more experienced and wiser. So usually we aren't really fast to judge. And like you said, more than likely in a situation, because we become recluses when we feel disowned or abandoned. Yes. But sometimes, lost souls always find lost souls too. So it's always good to have, like a VA shelter. And I wish the VA wasn't the only place that was. I wish it was just like some private form of the VA where they didn't have to operate by the rules of the military. Where people that are veterans that can prove that they're veterans, whether they got a VA ID or not, as long as they're not conscientious dissenters and they're not committing treason and they haven't blown anybody up or anything, they should be able to come together and congregate. They should be able to come and jumpstart their lives or their careers, or work themselves or reintegrate themselves into society without having to feel the stress and the laws and all that comes with we're actually signing up to be in the military, because we're not on active duty.
Absolutely. So for those of you who are interested, please follow him on Twitter right there. It's in the show notes. And his book also, please check the show notes. Click it there. It's on Amazon. If you want to check it out, please do that.
Larry got the S at the end of the JD_Future Press, but it's okay.
Oh, is that right? No. Let me change it. If I made a mistake,
it's okay.
I will fix that, brother. I will absolutely fix that. Is that better?
Fun. That's a good thing.
Is that good? I did it right. See, now I did it right.
There you go.
I did it right.
Good
Okay,
that we
that's the one.
like. Thank you. The thing about it is, suicide. I mean, when you're in it, it's a tough situation. But when you're talking about it, it's going to be such a downer where people want to avoid it either.
Yes.
There is humor in life, first of all.
Yes.
So you don't want to make it a situation like the new Batman movie where it's all black and white. The Suicide Squad movie, just like no man, it's not gloomy. It's not, you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Stopping people to commit suicide is a celebration.
If
you have to do it a million times,
all the time.
So what, man?
Military veterans, we joke about the darkest shit. We just joke about dark stuff. It's what we do. It's who we are. And sometimes civilians don't get that. That sometimes that comedy on dark, horrible things is a way we cope. It's a way we deal with it. It's a way we take the power away, right? We take the power away from it by doing that.
You undress it.
Yes.
I hope I don't get in trouble. I don't want to be sounding silly, but you make that situation your bitch instead of it making you a bitch. So
that's right. Yes.
You know what I mean? I'd rather be the one wearing the shoe to the dresser than the shoe kicking me in the ass. I
said all the time, if you don't control it, it will control you. Absolutely. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So let me grab a couple more comments if I can. Steve says, 2 of my buddies that I deployed with to Afghanistan with have taken their lives in the last 2 months. See, he's feeling it. Steve's feeling it. Absolutely.
The thing about it is, Steve, I'm sorry for your loss. And people don't understand how much that means when people lose something. Just tell somebody that, man, because you can't. There's nothing we can say.
Yep.
That's gonna we can empathize, but we can't really feel that emotion of what those two people meant to him and his advice for him to even put that in the comment to us, right?
Yes.
So I lost a friend, Andrew, that I've known since elementary school, and there was a dark period of my life where I was trying to make the conscious decisions of what I was going to do after college. I graduated, and he's a former Marine, Semper Fi, but God bless the dead too. But Andrew, I was all the way in Hawaii by then, but he took me on his way a little bit, kind of showed me the ropes, like, hey man, you can live this way, man. Like, come out of your shell and you can see. And I got all the way to Hawaii, and then found out he had killed himself. He blew the top off. So I'm sitting there, I didn't think, you never know how much someone affects you until they're gone.
Yes.
Because when they're gone, there's no coming back. So there's emotions in you that these people's spirits, their presence just put in you. And you knowing that they're okay does a lot for you. So when you find out, all that stuff just leaves. All that security becomes an insecurity. So, it's important to be able to have folks to socialize with and congregate with, to I don't want to say that, but reinvigorate you, give you something to say, hey, you know what? Even though they're not here, I can carry on their legacy. I can pass. Absolutely. I can carry their torch, and I can pass on a little bit of what I know, whether it's to my children or to whoever I may come across in my own journey going forward. That we can never, that person's legacy will never die.
Absolutely. Andrew here says, thank you both for your time and service to our country. May God bless you and every veteran. Thank you, Andrew. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Yes, absolutely. But to your point, we want to make talking about suicide as talking about any other issue, any other, idea or concept. If we don't talk about it, then it doesn't get solved, number one. And number two, if we don't talk about it, now the people who are in trouble don't say anything because no one's talking about it. So I'm with you. We have to do that without question. Jan says, our military gets standard treatment always until they move up rank, big rank. Oh, is that true? Jan's saying that if you're like a general or something, big rank, then you get better treatment. Is that true?
The money, the saying is money talk, bullshit walk. That don't change since you got a military uniform on. So if you got big rank, your money. So yeah, like my uncle was in the Air Force for 30 years. He was the highest rated non-commissioned officer in this country in the Air Force. God bless the dead. My uncle Michael Von Dortz, he's actually commissioned by the Queen in the Royal Air Force and all this different stuff. He built his first car all the way from the ground up by the time he was 15.
Wow.
So yes, they got to treat they're going to treat your behavioral concerns different at that level than mine as a specialist in the Army coming in. Yes.
Yeah. So, Jan, you're right.
Hell yeah.
Yep. Right. Yes.
She's absolutely right.
Absolutely.
Because one is a high value asset, and even though my job specialty is high value, it ain't that high value. Because I do see high ranking officials. Like there's no rank that I couldn't treat. So that's what they train you to do. So I have a CW5 Chief Warrant Officer 5 sitting there. That's pretty high. He's like one of the. If you see what CW5, he's like one of the only people in the Army that can do your job out of 2 million, however many million of folks that are in there.
Wow. Okay. There we go. So I want to go to one more piece, though. Your own journey, if I can. Right. And I know you talk about this in your book, but there was a point after you kind of saved that guy after 81 days. I know maybe you don't want to hear that word, but you kind of did save him. He's up and about now, and you were the guy that he looked to, to get himself back up in action. You took a turn for the worse. I mean, you were in a position that if someone was looking at you, they would have thought you were having the greatest life in the world. Hanging out, getting high, having girls. But you weren't.
You can suffer in silence, or you can suffer in a Van Gogh, or you can suffer in the melody of a Mozart. You can. And Mozart was suffering. Clearly, some of this is dark music. But I made it look good, I guess. You know what I'm saying? But that entire time, I was fighting for something. I was fighting to find something to cling on. And in all of that, in essence, I did it. And then that brings me to the guy. I don't know if you've been keeping up with some of the more high profile or publicized suicides over the last week or so, the most talked about. But there's a guy from, let's see where I put that note, Clyde Kerr III, 43-year-old Lafayette Parish deputy. Did you see that?
Yep.
Former Army veteran. And he said the thing about it is, the treatment of blacks and, what they're suspected of black officers to either deal with or just let go or overlook is unfair, and it was too much for him. And, he couldn't really be an officer knowing what wearing that uniform was really covering up.
Mm-hmm.
You see what I'm saying? And he was sick of it. So that's basically what I was like. I felt like I was wearing a uniform and these people suffering. But in that uniform, you can't see that stuff. As long as I'm coming to work smelling well, teeth brushed, trim, my boots are tied, nothing got no holes in my uniform. Nobody's gonna think you might kill yourself, right? Nobody's gonna think.
So you were hidden too, right? You were hidden.
But at the same time, if you did, you don't know, if you've never had any behavioral health treatment in your entire life, you don't kind of want that treatment because of the stigma that comes along with that type of treatment.
Yes.
So you're like, fuck this. I'm not going to be these guys' lab rat. They just got to give me pills because, for a long time, I just listened to what everybody was saying. And, you gotta eat your suffering. And, that's how I grew up in, a long income black Southern home with 4 other siblings and a single mom. And you do that. So the majority of my early life, probably up until I was 24, 25, I would say, I was like, you know what? I'm gonna do things and just fuck it. Just, I can overlook it. I couldn't overlook it no more. So I said, I'm going for therapy. And they just like pills. And, you're thinking you're talking to the people and they're doing these things based on what you're saying, but it's really just doing it based on a standard diagnosis. They don't really give a damn because they're going to write it up in the note like, hey, I did what you guys told me to do. So if the side effects didn't affect him the way you guys ordained or prescribed or suggested they would, that's not my fault. And then the last 2 years, I said, you know what? The big thing that's overlooked is self-medication.
Okay.
See what I'm saying? So I'm like, man, fuck it. If y'all don't care, then I don't care. And then everything, my thrill-seeking behavior turned from like, I'm pouring champagne on women and stuff. Was like, hey, I'm going to do all this stuff, whether it be whatever drug of the day. And then by the end of the day, I'll be dead. Maybe I just run off a cliff or something, or I get shot or something. I won't have to deal with it.
you were at a point where you were purposefully just shoving every drug you could in your body, hoping you didn't wake up the next day.
Basically, I wasn't doing no crack or meth or nothing like that. Basically. So, you know.
But you still woke up.
You know, what we used to say in my little ragtag group, it was 3 of us total. I had a buddy that's from like Boston. And you know how Irish people are tough. Those are some of the tough. You could like set some of them on fire. They probably wouldn't catch fire. Tough, right? So I call him Beantown as his nickname. But he always would say, if whiskey can't fix it, then fuck it. Mm-hmm. So for a long time, we just drank and partied. Then, you know, I got into some of the more exclusive drugs, I guess, the high-end drugs that's tailored to, you know, the outside music festivals and stuff like that. And which those are like psychedelics. And so if you're like tripping balls and you already want to kill yourself, there's a good chance you're going to actually wind up killing yourself. So that's why
So you're doing really MDMA, you're doing coke, you're doing whiskey, and you don't die. So when you don't die.
And then I took I fucked up my OD. I still don't know how I survived that. I really did, truth be told. And, you know, that doesn't sound right, but I didn't do a good job. You know, as smart as I am, as much intelligence that I have, you know, even though I think I did, like 6 or 7 Adderalls, 2 coke, drank half a gallon of whiskey. I don't know how much more alcohol. I had all these girls from UH in the car. I'm driving on the island in the dark. You know what I mean? Like, women hanging out the window and stuff. And I smoked a joint at the end and said, ain't no way in hell I'm waking up when I woke up. So that was a legitimate, that was like the toughest. But, you know, like I said, that isn't, more times it isn't just one attempted overdose. Once you're just thrill-seeking behavior becomes
but hold on. Like the question I want to ask you, though, here is, you're at that level. What was the thing that made you say, I got to get help? No. What was it that day when you woke up and said, all right, I've been saved, let me go get help? Or was it something else that made you go, all right, now's the time?
Well, when I woke up, I said that shit hurts, because it was the worst hangover in my life, you know, because, you know, I'm sure, you know, I have seizures and stuff, so I know it's a few times I stopped breathing during the night, whether I remember it or not. I'm pretty sure that happened because when you're on that kind of cocktail, illicit drug cocktail, that's what typically happens to you in your sleep. So the first thing I said was, that hurt, I don't want to try it again, because before that I had tried to slit my wrist a little bit too. Mm-hmm. But, you know, more or less it was just getting out of that situation. So I got out of the Army. Then, you know, I was homeless for a little while, moved back, couch surfing, just trying to make a living. And then just seeing the grittiness of the people who are actually in that homelessness, what do you call it, vagabond part of it, and they're veterans, right? Mm-hmm. And they're white, black, Filipino, Polynesian, and this isn't Hawaii, that's why I bring that up. But they're still going. It doesn't matter what anybody thinks about it. It don't matter what they think they hide. Like a hot mess. So they know exactly what they need to keep living. So that's what I tell people. You do exactly what you got to do to keep living. As long as you ain't hurting no old women, no children, you ain't out to doing some crazy shit with a nigga trying to blow up no church. Do whatever it is. You know, if I ain't saying smoke crack and stuff, I'm not condoning drug use, but man, you got to, if you dead, man, that's it. So you do whatever it is you got to do to keep living.
So what you're saying is you went down to a point where you were homeless, and where most people would think that when you're now with a group of homeless people, homeless men particularly, that now it's over. But you actually saw them still fighting, even when they're homeless, and that motivated you to fight even harder.
They got their own fucking city down there, man. Like, it's the underworld. It's just like, you know, it's like, I don't know if you ever seen, I can't remember the name.
I live in New York City. I know what you're talking about.
But I'm like a band of gypsies. Like, they have like their own underworld. And they saw me as like, hey man, I was like clean cut still. I didn't have no beard and stuff, you know, so I still kind of look young. Because, you know, I was showering and stuff. The beach opened at 5 o'clock in Waikiki, so I used to have to get to the beach early. I'd shower and stuff and shave and all that different stuff. So I come out, you probably couldn't tell I was your homeless. So, but a lot of the other people you could tell, because they have been doing it for years. And so I would just go off based off like some of their pointers, just how they report people. and then just their wisdom and how they adjust. Because you see, like there are people make rules, especially business owners, to keep homeless people out. But there's some homeless people that find ways in, and that's what I'm saying. Like they don't have no quit. Like,
right.
And I think that's I got to see it at ground zero. So when I talk about homelessness, veteran suicide, emptiness, being disowned, loyalty, unloyalty, what I'm saying? When I say suicidal ideations or successful suicide, like I seen all this, like, what I'm saying? Like that's another thing I say is once you see your first dead body, you're never the same. So I worked in the hospital and I see dead people in the streets.
Sure.
You see what I'm saying? So that was an experience for me to say, hey man, I'm doing pretty good compared to I was when I was sleeping in the back of a guy's Jeep. He was on vacation and he came back. He was in the parking lot and he caught me in there. And I thought he was gonna call the police, and he said, hey man, you look like you was real tired. I said, yeah, but I just need someone to say. But he was actually in the Navy. And he actually, he called me, he's like, hey man, I walked out. I turned around, he threw me like 2 bags of gummy bears. You see what I'm saying? Like, there are people that out there that care. It's just the same that they aren't in the institutions and agencies that are supposed to be provided by the federal government to take care of people like us. They don't know.
But that's why you said, if I heard what you said, that's why you're saying you wish there was kind of like a private option where people could just go out and help people in the way that need to be helped. I mean, someone like you understands if there's a veteran who's homeless and in trouble, and some bureaucrat says something, they're not going to hear them. But if you say it, they're going to be like, oh, okay, yeah, I got you.
I got you. Like these people suffering. I'm still suffering. Sure. I don't want to make it about me because you can donate. I got a GoFundMe page, so I'm trying to take my memoir. Basically, that's what it is, the allegory, to the screen. I got a guy that I know from that's locally that's actually done a screenplay that's gonna assist me. Loosely assist me with as far as like the structure and what goes in and what to put in and what to take out.
So for those of you who are interested in seeing what he's talking about, head over to Twitter. It's right there. Head up in the show notes. You can see in the description of this podcast. Head up there and click and see what his book's about on Amazon. Do that if you're interested. Check him out on Twitter. See if you're interested in what he's doing. I definitely appreciate that. I want to grab a couple more comments if you're okay. I'm getting a lot of comments. I'm going to grab a couple more if I could. Don't pills just mask the problem? Mental health issues still require counseling. It's true, right?
Yes.
Right? I mean, you still want to
I have to say that's a firm yes. I just had to think about it.
Okay, good. All right, good. All right, this is Matt. He tells a story. He says, my cousin joined the army and did multiple tours in Iraq, Afghanistan, and other places around the globe. Before he left, he was filled with life and lit up a room. When he finally got out, he was a shell of his former self and struggles constantly with PTSD and depression. My family feels almost helpless because he's gotten some help, but he needs more and still relapses into episodes of deep depression where he falls off the map for months at a time. I'm sure you heard this story 100 times, right?
Yes, and that was the thing that I was touching on is that you have to define goals. Just like, it sounds like the individual is manic depressive. Yep. And you're polarized, polar opposites, two different people. So you got to make goals where those two parts of your personality or your spirit can still see the goals and how they unify the individual mind, body, and spirit. So what
I would say, my mind says the same thing. If you love that person, you just got to have more patience. And that's not easy. That is not easy, but I think it's the answer. You got to have more patience. You got to stop trying to fix them overnight. You just got to keep your ears open and let them know that you care. I think that's the best thing that a civilian could just do to hope that eventually the person goes and gets help.
And the caveat of what you're saying, because every word you just uttered was great. You can't put a picture on what cured looks like either.
Mm-hmm. Nice. You can't put a picture on it. Yes, absolutely.
So, it's never going to be a day where that person, what was the guy's name, Matt?
Yeah.
Well, you're gonna see it and be like, "Oh, he's cured." You're gonna have to be able to feel it and touch it, and to be able to do that is to spend time with that person every day or every opportunity you get, and make sure you don't judge them or think less of them. Just appreciate the fact that even if he does sway off the beaten path, that he's strong enough to come back. Because when you sway, sometimes the route or whatever shortcut or turnout that you fall down is tough to get back to where it was. That everybody could. All right, he's back on the road. He's going again. So
good.
Just like you said, be patient,
and
it'll
Ed
turn
says,
out well.
I faced the conflict due to my disability at my job at New York State Department of Transportation. I got no help from them. Reasonable accommodation didn't work out. My evaluation appeals were pointless. They don't care about us. Even being a disabled vet means nothing to these people. Affirmative action lawsuits mean nothing. While it didn't lead me to suicidal issues, this kind of environment in society doesn't help my fellow vets. I really wish the leaders responsible for my situation were held accountable. But until this day, it's still, I'm assuming that means not. So I guess Ed's saying that even in his spot, he was watching other vets, be hurt by the situation too. Luckily for Ed, and I'm glad that Ed wasn't in a place where he went down a hole, but I'm sure there are vets who are in a bad spot, and then this put them in a hole.
And like we keep saying, their treatment right now is black and white. There is some gray in the treatment, man. So, that's what he's trying to get to. You can't treat every situation the same. So, like, if you say just because you don't have this or this type of discharge, or you didn't do this or this, or have this or this rank, you only get this much treatment. You know what I'm saying? There should be a standard. It should be beyond a standard of care. So when you say you like, as long as you can get in here, you're not hurting anybody or whatnot. As long as you can come in here, and you're gonna be all right in a safe environment. You're gonna keep it safe for us. We will work with you. And I think that's the way it should be.
So Shelley asks a question I think a lot of people wonder. How much of this is from or alongside some type of brain injury, like, TBI? Is most of this TBI, some of it TBI, none of it TBI, a little bit? How much of this is TBI versus other issues?
Well, I know people with head traumas, they can disrupt the function of portions of their brains. So in some situations, it can play a huge role. Because some people can wake up and you have to remind them who they are every day.
Wow. Okay.
Just from a TBI.
Wow. If you had to guess, do you think it's 50%, 10% of the issues that the veterans are dealing with? How much do you think is TBI?
Well, the deployment numbers have gone down, I guess, of late.
So it's probably a lot less.
It's a lot less. But I'm just saying, in those situations, it's still not. They're still not treating it any better, I don't think, because there were patients that did have traumatic brain injuries that we actually treated, and they still gave them the standard treatment. So
got it. So it didn't even matter.
Didn't even matter.
Wow. Okay. Paula says, my husband is a Marine. 0352. That's hold on, machine gunner. I think that's a machine gunner, or is that heavy weapons? I've actually forgotten my which one the 03 is. I'm sorry, but it's been 30 years, Paula. Please, I hope you're not mad at me. I'm pretty sure it's a heavy weapons. I think that's right. Who was hit by an IED in 2008. I still worry about him, even though he has accomplished a lot since he got out. I just bought Justin's book. Oh, there we go. Someone bought your book. Yes, we'll get more for some of his friends. There we go. So yeah, I mean, I have friends who, I'm a veteran of the first Gulf War era, right? That was a time frame I was in back with Saddam Hussein, right? And I still know people who were, there who still suffer today, right? And that's 20, 30 years ago now, and they still suffer to this day. So I get what you're saying, Paula. I know people who are still suffering today. Absolutely. So I'm going to grab a couple more about this. Daniel says, not many truly do care about vets. And there's some truth to that, right? It feels good to say, thank you for your service, or I support our troops. But how many are actually talking about the problems, the issues, and the concerns of the day? I wonder how many actually are. And I think Daniel's got a point. A lot of people really aren't doing that at all. I don't know. Am I wrong, Justin?
No, my thing is like I want to make sure like I didn't write my book for profit or anything like that. It has a price because the people that print the book got to get paid. The
Yes,
manufacturers and
sure.
the individuals that work in paper processing plants, stuff like that, have to get paid. But you don't have to always give people money to care about to say you care about the
Yes.
various. And also, every time you say thank you for your support doesn't mean that you actually care. So it's all
Yes.
about what type of effort you're putting into to show that. Just like if you can't say you can say you're a Christian, but are you really practicing the Christian faith or whatever? Are you really whatever religion? Are you really doing the things? So if you
Right.
care about veterans, there's things you need to like. Um, if you care about veterans, then every Veterans Day parade in your city should be in any type of veteran situation where you're just at home free, you not have anything to do instead of watching Netflix. You can
Yeah.
go and then like some people, actually buy people meals and stuff, which is cool. But
I love that.
you know,
Yes.
but
So Brennan says we need to provide more help besides just pills. Brennan, I'm with you, brother. Yes. We need to expand options. Yep. We also need to open up some vet hospitals in our territories where there are many veterans that are 2,000 miles from the nearest veteran hospital. All valid points, Brennan. All valid points. I think I'd add one more piece. I would try to turn the VA more into basically an insurance company that would allow veterans to take what would be VA services and go to their local hospital or local, provider, people they know and trust in their community, whatever that might be, and not have to go 1,000 miles, but instead be able to go 5 miles right to the hospital or the local healthcare worker. I would add that piece too, Brennan, if it were me. I don't know. What do you think, Justin?
and
Am I right?
I just share a story because you probably made the most important point between the two of us. But I just share a story of my experience with the VA, kind of like why I don't want to deal with them more times than not when I seek treatment or anything. But I was in Orlando when I first got out, and I walked to the nearest VA. And I'm thinking, at any VA you can do anything. They can fax paperwork out, this and stuff. She's like, no, this is like a satellite VA. You have to go to the downtown Department of Veterans Affairs. And the downtown veteran department, after I had already walked 8 miles there, and I had to walk 8 miles back to my place.
Oh
Was
my God!
30
Yes,
like 20
yes.
something miles away.
I got to tell you, the VA system, while it's gotten a little bit better recently, it's still not great, right? It is not great. In fact, when I used to work, I used to do a lot of veterans transition work about 15 years ago. And probably my height 10 years ago. I did a lot of it about 10 years ago. And what I would do is I'd be helping veterans to, come back into the world, right? Showing them how to do things like I'm a trainer. That's my day job is I'm a corporate trainer, coach, teacher. That's what I do as a day job. So what I would do is for free, I would be training veterans how to interview for a job, how to put a resume together, stuff like that. So I first went to the VA because I thought, okay, that's the perfect place to go. The VA was terrible. It was literally, like you said, a checkbox. I just had to fill in a rubric of what I had to do. And I said, this is not true. It's garbage. They still had in the rubric what kind of paper to have your resume on. Like, who brings that? They had that still. And I was saying, I'm not doing this. So literally, I went away. I stopped going to the VA. And I only went to private charities and colleges that would have veteran transition programs. And I would teach them for free because I found that the VA was ineffective completely. I was embarrassed how bad it was.
I want to add one more thing because I don't want to pile on the VA, but I applaud people who do because they need to change. But I had an instance with Social Security that you're talking about the standard way of treat things and having rubrics. And, they had a tweet. And, I have a voice on Twitter, influence. And the tweet was like, the best way to do business with Social Security is by going to our website and you can do this, this, and this. But knowing I received Social Security, so I know that's a bold-faced lie because if you don't have the forms and they don't send the forms, but they still require, you have to go somewhere, print, sign, and fax those forms. So you have to find out if you can't fill them out yourself and your sponsor don't know what the fuck to do. You have to find someone to help you do it. Then you have to find a place to send all this back. And all of this, you have to find a ride. Most print jobs and fax jobs aren't free at UPS or even your local library.
Wow.
So like how I asked Social Security and tweeted them, like, how is this the best way to do business if I know that this is I gotta do all you just can't assume everybody has every disabled person, whether they're a veteran or not, has a printer or a fax receipt at home.
Absolutely.
You can't do that. And then they apologize. They actually sent me a tweet and say, I'm sorry for your frustration. Blah, blah, blah. Go checking with your local office. So it's great to have that type of influence. I still got the screenshot, but I never let that go. That I was able to get an agency because they said they sent me some forms. So I'm looking for these forms for weeks. Then I called the local office and say, hey, I didn't get the forms. Said, oh, it's probably no big thing. Then all of a sudden my benefit was gone. I said, wait. So you mean to tell me the forms you guys didn't send? Then they notified me that they never received them. But I can't notify them that I never received them. Who's where are they going to go with? The federal government, right?
Right. Absolutely.
Right.
Yes. Yep. Daniel says, I lost 7 guys back home, 0 in Afghanistan.
Not surprised.
Yes, but you know what that breaks my heart even more on, and this is going to sound harsh, but the families are affected by this too, right? Because they love you, they care about you, and when you fall down and they can't help, they feel helpless, they feel terrible, they can't help out. And now when a civilian family is afraid when their loved one goes over to Afghanistan, they think some Afghani guy is going to shoot him or blow him up. That's what they think. So when they come back, the family goes, he's back. I'm safe. Right now it's good. Now he's safe because he's back. He's not in the war zone anymore. My loved one is now safe. The family believes that. And then what Daniel said kicks in. And then all of a sudden they still lose their loved one here. That's extra devastating to the family. That makes the pain even worse, even deeper.
And you can't file, what is it called? A wrongful death against the VA or Social Security or anybody else that provides mental health and disability benefits to veterans. They just gone. So you can't file like a private company. Like the family that lost the 20-year-old, he killed himself over, he thought he had a debt of $730,000 with Robin Hood. And so he killed himself. But the family could file a wrongful suit. His name is Alex Kearns. He's from Navarreville, Illinois, I believe. 20-year-old guy. I think it was last year, but hit the news where people actually can because it's a pandemic. So suicide is a fucking serious crisis. It's even worse.
Some people don't know this, but the phones and the intake of veteran suicide hotlines since last year is up 1,000%. Not 100%, 1,000%. That's the intake. They are overwhelmed. They can't handle it. It is insane. And they don't have enough money to hire people. So they're trying to grab volunteers because it is so high. And the problem is, to your point, you don't want just anybody on that phone. You want someone who knows how to handle it, right? And
nobody really knows. I'm good at it. I'm good. I know I'm good. You know what I'm saying? But everybody ain't good.
That's right.
Like somebody called me and say you want to kill yourself. I say, well, I can't tell you that's the wrong thing to do. But I'm going to do my best to try to find ways or reasons for you to maybe reconsider. So maybe can we just talk for a minute? See, a lot of people don't know to do that. You can say that to people, they won't necessarily blow their brains out or swallow a whole bunch of pills. You talk to people like human beings, and a lot of times they're going to respond because they're a fucking human being. But to go back to the whole thing about the guy that lost his 7 friends when he got back home, a lot of those people, more times than not, even you, when you come out of the military, man, you're broken. You've seen things that's gonna make you a different person. So you don't even, society isn't built for you to succeed already. It isn't.
Absolutely.
Right? There isn't it's not a category in society for veterans. We could be like, oh, that's the veteran hangout. They got the VFW and stuff like that. But who really wants to go to a fucking bar and shoot pool all the fucking time?
Nobody. No, I'm with you. And one of the things I worked on this when I was doing a bunch of training. And one of the things I would do is I'd go to companies and I would say, look, do you have literally on your intake form, do you have a box to check that says veteran? You got a box to check everything else so you can create an affinity group for every group. You can create an affinity group if you're Hispanic, affinity group if you're Black, an affinity group if you're a woman, an affinity group if you're gay. You can create an affinity group within a company for all those things, except veteran. So you'd actually go to a company and say, what's your veteran population? I'd ask them, what's your veteran population? They would say, I don't know. That HR doesn't keep track of it. They have no idea what the veteran population is.
So you said it again. We're hidden.
Hidden, yes. Now they're better now. They're better now than they were 10, 15 years ago when I was fighting this battle back then. Now they're better, and a lot of companies will have a veteran checkbox. But you go back 10 years ago, right after the first Afghani war, that's when I was fighting for it because they were coming back after that, right? So I'm talking 2004, 2005, 2006, 2007. That's when I was, screaming about it back then. That's 14 years ago now. That's when I was doing it. So trying to get them to at least care, because here's the problem. When vets come in, and you know this, over 50% of veterans lose their first job within a year. Over 50% lose their first job within a year. And the number one reason is they don't have anybody in that job, to your exact point, to say, hey, man, how do I survive in this job? I'm a vet. This isn't what I was here for. I don't know how to survive in this environment. I don't even know, what happens when I'm sick. I don't know nothing.
We don't. It's not really veteran liaisons anyway. There's nobody that's a liaison that can smooth shit over for you.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying?
But the worst part is you go, then you find out someone like, the vice president of sales is a former Army officer. Well, why weren't you talking to him? You know why?
Yeah.
Because nobody knew. That's why. Because nobody knew. But now, as we kind of, as you said, make it unhidden, more companies now have a veteran affiliate program to where if you're a vet, you get other vets and they say, no. We talk every Thursday, right? We talk the second Tuesday of the month. And you got somebody to sit there and go, I don't know how to navigate this. And they go, okay, let me show you how. Exactly right.
And it's good that some cutters do. I tell you one industry that needs to do better. That's restaurant hospitality. Could probably do better because, they kind of just put you in there and they expect you to do. Because I got fired from Hard Rock, Honolulu within my first 6 months.
Yes.
So I was just like,
that's common.
That's what happens. And then the other thing, just to add on to another thing you just said about the National Suicide Prevention Hotline, how it's up 1,000%. The majority is, even though the veteran population for adults is only about 7.9%, we still account for the most suicides a year. It's 13.2%. 13.2% of the adult suicides in America are veterans. So that's already high. Then I don't know if other people know that the last time, and there's one statistic I saw in the Governor Office of Accountability's report, was that, every 72 minutes of every day a veteran kills himself. Yeah.
It's terrible.
Those are glaring, troubling statistics.
Yes. So let me ask you, before we wrap this up, is there something that we haven't talked about that you want to bring up? Is there something that I missed in our conversation?
I don't think we missed it. I just think that, a lot of people just say, the quickest way they say, we know you was a veteran or whatever, just find some hobbies. The long time could be one of the most deadliest things for veterans because you don't have anything there to kind of like bounce these ideas off. So you're trapped in your own thoughts. So you're feeling off your own thoughts, and your thoughts will fight with you, and your body's breaking down faster than because more times than not, physically, you're not the same as you were before you went into the military. So, you get beat up in all kinds of ways. So, a lot of times being alone isn't good. So it's good, I would say, at least since I've been, where I'm at now, to build I wouldn't say a social network, but like a personal network where I at least just go around and have these individuals to talk to. So it's important for people just to have people, even if you don't tell them exactly what's going on, at least you can go talk to them and just be like, hey, they're happy to see that I'm here and I'm happy to be here. And that gives you a little more joy throughout your day, and then you can get through a lot more stuff. So the best thing to do is don't be alone.
Yeah. Oh, don't look at that. The best thing to do is don't be alone. Amazing.
You're not gonna last.
It's that simple. I love that. Very simple advice. Justin, thank you so much, brother, for coming on tonight. I appreciate it. Everybody else, thank you so much for watching. Please check out Justin on Twitter. Head to the show notes if you want to see his book. Please enjoy. I'm so glad you came on. Guys, thank you so much for tonight. I will see you all